is good to be here, and once again, we are from Clarksville, Tennessee, and we're grateful to be at Gateway Baptist Church. We've been there for 9 years, and grateful for what the Lord is doing there, and excited about the future, and all of that is just a credit to what the Lord is doing and has done, is desiring to continue to do. And we're just going to share a little bit of our testimony of what the Lord has done in our lives, and I'll let my wife start.
So I was a little hesitant on if I wanted to speak or not because I get a little bit nervous, but I was thinking there might be a teenager here today that is in the same place now that I was. I was raised in a Christian home. My dad's a pastor in Columbus, Georgia, and I knew all the right things to say. My junior and senior year of high school, I struggled a lot, was kind of running from the Lord a little bit, not in your typical way of outwardly running, but I knew I was not doing what I needed to be doing. I made the decision to go to school to be a nurse, and my parents encouraged me. My brother was here, I had family here, I had friends here, and they just encouraged me, if you're going to go to be a nurse, go to Crown for 1 year and be with your family and do the 1-year Bible, get that solid education you need, and then you can come back here and go to school to be a nurse. So I had already started online classes to be a nurse, and I came here just to be with family and friends. But while I was here, the first couple months, I kind of got involved in ministries and things like that. But in October, I was sitting back there somewhere, and they had a missions conference, I think it was, and I don't even remember exactly what the message was. But I remember the Lord really speaking to my heart in that one service. And it was different than what I had felt before. I had surrendered, or I thought I had surrendered in the past, just whatever you want me to do, Lord, I'm willing to do, is what I thought I had done before. But in that moment, it was different. It was kind of a fire the Lord kind of set in my heart, not just surrendering to do whatever he wanted, but surrendering specifically to ministry, to serving in the ministry, whatever that looked like. And I just felt this fire, and I got really excited, and I went and called my parents, and things kind of changed for me after that one moment in October. And I started serving in the bus ministry here while I was at Crown, and I had just a different perspective on, I think it was Brother Bell that preached on this, but on Matthew 9:37 and 38, where it says, "Then he said unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he will send forth laborers into this harvest." And that was what was spoke on in October of that year. And I just had that thought, if not me, then who's going to go and who's going to serve? And so I just got really excited after that, and I was only here for a year. I didn't have to be here for 4 years for the Lord to speak to me. It was just 1 year. It was one moment, one service. The Lord really used that one moment to change my life, and it really did. And I went back home, started a bus ministry in my home church, and then we got married and went to Clarksville, and we've been there for almost 9 years. And it's just been a huge blessing, and all that I can point back to that one service here at Crown for that 1 year. So I'm just thankful for that.
My testimony is a little bit different. I did not necessarily grow up in what you would consider a traditional Christian home. I come from a broken home, and I remember early in my childhood, church was not something we attended. It was not until my mother met my stepfather where the Lord began to use the Word of God in my life in a powerful way, in the sense of going to church, plugging in. I remember the children's programs. I remember going to church. I remember everything early in that early childhood of my life. But it wasn't until I was in my teenage years where the Lord began to do a deep work. At the age of 14, we moved from Columbus, Indiana to Columbus, Georgia. And I was sitting in a youth service just like tonight when Brother Kenny Baldwin got up to preach. And if you've ever heard Brother Kenny Baldwin, you know that he preaches even when he's not preaching. And he wasn't preaching at this time, but he made a statement that forever changed my life, because I was running from the Lord concerning salvation, because I was so concerned with what my friends, my youth department, my pastor, my family would think. And he made a statement that really just captivated me in that moment. I couldn't even get to the altar fast enough. I couldn't do business with the Lord quick enough. He said, "I'd rather go through the motions of being saved twice than the reality of going to hell once." And that statement changed my life. That was in July of 2009. In January of 2010, I surrendered to preach. And I remember asking, what does that even mean? What does that look like? And I went through some classes in my home church, and my senior year, we began to visit Bible colleges. And the first time I had ever come here was for a Bible conference that we had come to, and then later that summer I would come for a basketball camp. And the Lord directed me here to Crown College, and it was 4 years that truly changed my life. We've recently started a preachers and preaching class at our home church and dealing with young men and those who feel the Lord has called them to preach. And typically when we think of 4 years of Bible college, our first thought goes to, well, I'm going to be sitting in a lot of classes and I'll get an education, but you get so much more. I've left this place with relationships that I never knew I could have with faculty and staff, where I could pick up the phone and call a staff member and just ask some questions even today. I left with relationships where they were just educators at that time, but now they are friendships that have been built up. And I remember my time here at Crown. I came and was able to play on the basketball team. Me and Brother Scoggins played together for just a little while, and that was a blessing. And I remember even being on the basketball team, and you think that it's all about basketball, but I remember many of our practices where we'd walk in and we never once would touch a basketball. Coach Hickman would sit us down, and he would begin to teach us life lessons, the Christian life, and how it was to be lived out. And those are some of the greatest memories I have. I remember going to Bible classes and getting plugged into the Bible schools and teaching in those and going and preaching. I remember many times going and plugging into the nursing home, and it was in the nursing home ministry that God began to really deal with me on preaching and the service and the structure. And I go back so many times in my life to certain moments that were had in just 4 years here. And I remember one summer that really the Lord did a deep work. I had the opportunity to serve on the camp staff. And I remember even in that year, Brother Powman, you preached that year. And my mind, even this week, has gone back. And, when I think about the meeting that we're having, that word continue. I think about the preachers and those who are on this platform, even right this very moment. And that's a testimony of this theme of continue. I believe it was something that Pastor Sexton desired so greatly. I go back at certain times in my college time. I remember as I look around and see Asia and Europe, and we would split off into groups. I'd come here for youth education, and that's what I thought. I thought I was going to leave Crown College. I was going to go serve as a youth director for 10, 15 years, and then we'd see what was next. And as I began to pray in those chapel services, God began to do a different work in my life concerning full surrender. You see, I had surrendered some things, and even ministry. I had surrendered to go into the ministry, and I was training to be in youth ministry. But even during those 4 years, the Lord said, you haven't surrendered all. You've surrendered some, and those things that you've surrendered are good things, but you haven't surrendered all. And I remember during those chapel services as we'd split off, I began to pray, Lord, you're asking for all, and so whatever that means, I surrender all. And the Lord began to do a work concerning one day maybe pastoring. I didn't know what that would even look like. I had great pastors in my life and great influences, but the thought of pastoring just terrified me. And I stand before you, it still terrifies me right now as a pastor. But I'm grateful because in that time, a statement now is something that I look back to, and that is the statement, Ms. Sexton, this is for that. And that time in my life was a this moment. And I'm on the other side of that now, and I look back and I see that at the time, this is for that. And I'm grateful for my time that I had here at Crown College. If you are here tonight, then you've got a glimpse even tonight of what we were able to experience so many times. And I remember sitting in chapel services where God was moving. I remember sitting in Bible classes where God was doing a great work. I remember being in the dorm and going and having dorm devotions, and God was doing a great work. And I'm just grateful for my time here at Crown College, and I'm grateful for what God is doing even right this very moment. And this theme of continue is not only a challenge to the young people that are here tonight, it's also a challenge to us that are still in the Lord's work. And I pray that at the end of my life, it will be said that Josh Farmer and Kelly Farmer, they continued. I'm grateful for all the Lord is doing, and I'm praying for the future. Thank you.